Today's Wednesday, February 6, 2019. You know what time it is.
You're tuned in to the Elevator Radio Show, a weekly program dedicated to covering news and information on elevators, escalators, and moving walkways. Produced in the wee hours of the morning, a new show is uploaded every Wednesday, sometimes even before you get out of bed. Listen to some of the comments sent in from our audience.
Rob from New York writes, Tom, are you f***ing insane? You actually get up at 2 a.m. each Wednesday to put this show out? Man, you must love elevators. Tim from Illinois writes, I'm not sure why I listened, but ever since I tuned into the first show back in 2007, I've been addicted. Matt in Texas writes, I like your safety messages, Tom. It's important to remember them each and every day. And he also adds,
when am I going to win the monthly prize pack giveaway?
Ron from California sent this in. Despite your inability to pronounce words in the English language, I tune in each week and it's better than Google News alerts. Sarah from Washington writes, love the show, Tom, and look forward to it each week. I'm glad I signed up for the newsletter. You provide a valuable resource for the industry, not only for North America, but worldwide.
Enjoy the show. And now, here's your sleep-deprived host, Tom Seibert.
Hello and good morning, everyone. I am Tom Seibert, your humble host for today's show, next week's show, the show after that, and the show after that. It is good to be here where the polar vortex has released its icy grips on the Midwest. Thank goodness. Yes, we had, 3, 4, 5 days of negative temperature degrees out there with wind chills. And it was cold, but it wasn't too bad. It actually felt kind of good. I was kind of surprised that school was canceled for the high schoolers and for my kids for 2 days. But oh, well, whatever. I understand the concern when it comes to kids being outside. My kids do not dress warm enough. I don't know what is wrong with them, but they seem to believe they don't need any kind of jacket. Between that and how girls dress in high school, I don't, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It was not like the same when I went to high school whatsoever. So anyway, but we have... temperatures warmed up on Friday. I believe it was like 21 or 22 degrees, and I was like, man, this feels nice and warm. So, and then by Sunday, we had some temperatures in the upper 30s, lower 40s, and snow started melting. Everything looked yucky, and here we are today with an ice storm. So anyway, but hopefully in your neck of the woods, the weather has cooperated, and the last article of today's show is that the groundhog saw his shadow, which means that, or he didn't see it. I forgot what the analogy with that is. Just seems like a good excuse for a bunch of guys to get together and wear some clothes from the 1800s and celebrate the fact that perhaps we can all hopefully think spring is around the corner. I gave up on that thought a long time ago. Used to be as a kid, first week in March, I'd start imagining warmer temperatures only to be disappointed by the fact that the reality is here in Chicago, and probably the same goes the further north you go in the hemisphere, in the latitude lines. The fact is that I can definitely, I hold out hope that warmer temperatures will stay any sooner than the second week in June. And for our friends to the north in Canada, that date may be the second week in August for you. I don't know. But that just seems to be the reality. No snow will come in June, but it can be cold that first week in June, so in Memorial Day time. So anyway, let's see if Mr. Groundhog or Mrs. Groundhog, I don't know if it's a boy or girl or what, that gets hoisted into the air is necessarily correct, and all we can do is hope. So got a short show for you today, some important articles to talk about, and we'll get into those next.
Let this week's news stories give you a lift on what's happening in the vertical transportation arena. Each news segment is organically dug and fresh with news stories of the week. Got lift? If not, stay tuned.
All right, first news article of the show. There were a couple of accidents in the last week. This one ending in tragedy is at an airport construction site in Utah. A worker dies after he fell into an elevator shaft. Again, the work that construction workers do, elevator people do, is dangerous. So we got to make sure that all the proper safety measures are being taken place. So never hem and haw or roll your eyes at the fact that somebody's asking you to do something safely or take a particular safety step to ensure that you're safe, because we're all trying to go home at the end of the day. None of us has to be strong. None of us has to be macho. None of us has to be what we probably were like back in the 1960s and 50s, where you had steel workers walking across steel beams as the city of New York was built. Okay, so please, take the proper safety measures and to ensure everybody goes home each and every day. Here's a second accident. This is coming from NBC, WESH News. Block that. A man was found dead in an elevator shaft at a construction site in Orlando, and that was early Monday morning. Again, just highlights the fact of the dangers that exist on construction sites when you're up in the air, and just anytime you are above the ground, or there's a chance for you to fall, there's a good chance things are going to end not so good, either in an injury or something worse. The Real Deal, the New York Real Estate News web, has posted a article written by Catherine Brenzel and David Jeans regarding elevated risk malfunction at New York City Housing Authority, and it just highlights just the issues and some of the points made regarding housing authorities and their continued challenges when it comes to elevators. And if anybody has ever worked or visited any type of housing authority, whether they be in Chicago, Memphis, New York, Boston, they are under some pretty significant demands, not only when it comes to vandalism, but when it comes to operation, funding to repair them, to modernize them, to fix them up. And the reality is that having myself been involved in quite a few different projects involving housing authorities, I've seen a lot when it comes to how badly abused most of this equipment is. So, which to me, says a lot about how difficult it can be to truly keep elevators running. So I'll let everybody read that. Feel free to comment on that if you'd like. I believe there's a comment section in the post, especially from the industry that we all are in, just to shed some light if you want to correct or add some important, just tips or points that somebody who wrote this may not have that. Okay, ceiling leaks and elevator is being shut down. I like to see this kind of proactiveness taking place. The Daily Pennsylvanian had an article. Apparently, they were concerned about water leaking for more than an hour Saturday afternoon. This is at a resident hall or village building. Not a village, but Hamilton Village Building Administrator Max Reyes Rosario just noted that they wanted to be sure and safe that the flood leaked out of the basement elevator area, but they wanted to make sure that residents were not allowed to take the elevator down to the basement. Just hopefully they shut that down and locked it, tagged it out. Because there's another article in Chicago where a woman was rescued, and I'll get into that in a little bit, in the elevator as the water rose to her waist as she went down to the basement or to where her the parking area was. So just kind of scary. Make sure that devices are installed. It can happen from a broken pipe, and you don't have to be in a flood area to worry about it. You just got to make sure that people are not, elevators are not operational when pits are completely flooded, so that the chance of any type of drowning is not there. So, and that's the reason why there's pit flood devices and circuitry to make all that work. Okay, next news article, Super Bowl commercials include more elevators than ever. And this is something that, and I did watch the game. I'm sure many of you did as well. But there were literally more elevators featured in them than I think I've ever seen before. So Jason Bateman, one of my I like him a lot as an actor. You can, probably watch all those again. But I was like, oh, there's another elevator. There's another elevator. So some of those, elevators that were featured were not necessarily, functioning or working elevators based on the buttons and stuff that were shown. But it was just still kind of neat to see that kind of attention brought to elevators in such a expensive space, right? When it comes to advertising, I thought that was pretty nifty, to say the least. News article from Santa Cruz, one of my favorite places to go. Watsonville parking garage elevator was damaged after was caught trying to rip out the electrical box, but he was also caught on tape or video or recording using a torchlighter to damage it. So I don't know what this guy's got against the elevator or what the deal is, but man, yeah, if he's got money, or man, fine him, put him in jail, and make sure he understands that, damaging elevators is not something that's an inexpensive thing to do. Another incident that happened in New Jersey, Herald.com reporting construction elevator accident drops debris on street below. Nobody was injured, thank goodness, but just still, again, involving a construction site, and just it goes to show and confirm that, just if you're somebody walking around construction sites, make sure that you're careful and you're aware of, what's above you and where things are at. But anyway, just kind of scary. So, yeah, apparently an exterior elevator came loose, striking the building and causing debris to fall. Yeah, that's a little scary. All right, next news article. Let's see here. Oh, yeah, here we go. Install pit flood sensors on all elevators. And again, just as what I noted earlier, CBS Chicago Channel News, women rescued from waist-deep an elevator after pipe building bursts. And when it's cold like that, pipes definitely burst. It definitely happens. So it's just nice to know that she was okay and rescued, and the effects of what could have been did not happen. So that's good news. Let's see here. Next news article. Elevator where woman was trapped for 3 days had multiple problems. This is the residential elevator in New York where the housekeeper, the woman who worked for the family, had gotten stuck for 3 days, and just kind of cites what the issues were on it after the city building inspectors came in and took a look. They had a burned out motor, some other issues. I'll let you read that because a bunch of pop-up ads are coming and just killing my computer speed. So we'll just hold off on that. There were quite a few articles regarding the hospital JPS elevator accident regarding that. A lot of editorial pieces. This one is an older post that I didn't post on last week's show, but state inspectors did investigate, or were going to investigate, the elevator accident at JPS. They did find some issues with some of the other elevators. That was logged in another article that I did not link up. But the reality is there's lots of talk. There's lots of information. I think this is the first time that I've read where the elevator owner has come out and literally, cited or pointing the finger at the contractor. So, and that's not something you typically see in the public light, and so it kind of leads to other ramifications that, none of us want to be in that type of position, obviously. The reality is you don't want somebody pointing the finger at you as or your customer, saying you're not doing a good job, or we don't think you're doing a good job, and you shouldn't have to defend yourself. You just have to do the best you can, and let the work that you do show that. That's about it. I work with good elevator. I should take a step back. I work with good companies as a business owner, in bad companies, and I tell you, I'm going to tell you, when I am more likely to. When I get a chance, let me just back up. When I get a chance to thank those companies that do a good job, I just drive that into them. I let them know. I let their boss know. I let their boss know. Whoever fixed our furnace or whatever, they did a good job. If they didn't, I let them know. But the reality is that so many of us don't hear that positive feedback in the work that we do. It's just a negative. So it's important that, we don't need to look for that. But at the same time, I'm grateful for those contractors that service my building, service our company in a way, because it's hard to find companies like that. So we all want to be that company. You know what I mean? We all want to be that company. Okay, dozen injured in MRT escalator accident. This is coming from the Straits Times in Singapore. And I don't have any information on this. There is a video. I did not link it. I did not want to just file a whole bunch of posts, but there were some injuries resulting in this. But again, it was in Singapore, so not that it matters or anything, but it wasn't anywhere in the continental United States or North America. There's a renewed push to toughen on elevator safety laws in Ohio. ABC 6 on your side, talking about apparently the lack thereof of having or not having mechanics properly licensed and trained. I don't know if that's necessarily true or not, but it sounds like it. So there's a new push in Ohio to make sure those mechanics and contractors are properly trained. It may be, I don't know enough about Ohio and what types of laws they have on the books, but I didn't think there were too many states out there that just didn't have any kind of training requirements or continuing education or certification programs. But I do understand that it takes quite a bit to run those types of entities, which kind of makes me wonder why you wouldn't turn to some type of outside firm that could manage that to some extent. But I don't know. Just seems like there should be an easier way of doing it rather than having to hire a bunch of people and run that through that program. So, okay, ThyssenKrupp Elevator has no plans to sell its elevator unit. This is coming from Reuters. There were some rumblings or some rumors that they might sell to Kone, and this is just speculation. Back in the day, it would have been a pretty interesting merger, but this coming from Germany. Okay, the Elevator Escalator Safety Annual General Meeting is set for 2019, which is now, but February 20th in Mobile, Alabama. If you'd like to register for that, please go ahead and do so. Go sign up for the email list as well. It's going to be held at the Renaissance Mobile Riverview Plaza. And Mobile is a great place to stay. It's a neat city to visit. I like it a lot. And just, if you ever have a chance to attend one of these, they're definitely worthwhile and interesting to see. Not interesting, but it's insightful to see the work that the board there is taking part in. So, with the new executive director, it will be a busy year for her to kind of get up to speed, and as they look into 2019 and in the direction that they're heading in. Chicago Elevator Association meeting is tomorrow, and it's going to be held in Oak Brook at the place they usually hold it. This is loading a little bit too long. Smart Rise Elevator is going to be in presenting, so it should be a good meeting. As a reminder, do never play hide and seek in abandoned buildings. In Detroit news, they did identify a Taylor man who was 21 years old and who died after falling through an elevator shaft as they played hide and seek. And the reality is that abandoned buildings are no place you want to be staying. And the last news article of today's show: I can sleep better now that Phil has predicted an early spring. Okay, so Phil is a boy. I apologize, I didn't know that, but this is great. So early spring, we can all rest up and let's put our winter clothes away, shall we? All right, well, that's going to do it for this week's show, everybody. I told you it was going to be short and sweet. As always, thanks for joining me on the program. You have a great rest of the week. Be safe out there, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday. Bye-bye.